What are you doing, Tobe? You making a menu for your drive-through?
Oh! Salad. A salad with like olives.
Salad with olives? Okay, so your menu is PB&J, lemon water or water, and salad with olives.
This is for this is the vegetarian thing.
Oh, okay.
So
Hey, can we get on the same page? Anything you take outside of my kitchen stuff has to be brought back in, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You need me to cut this lemon?
Yeah, I got this and
For the,
I got the
lemon
water.
Okay. Good morning, chickens. Do you want to come help me? Yes. So guys, I've been staring at my not planted potato patch for the last week and a half, chastising myself for being late. You know, sometimes I have to remind myself that just because the earliest time to plant something has passed doesn't mean the only time to plant something has passed. And so I'm not late planting potatoes. I can plant potatoes anytime for the next 5 months and grow potatoes. But I could have planted them a week and a half ago. So it's bothered me that I haven't. All right, into the high tunnel. All right, so I'm about to do a grand display of do as I say and not as I do. So I want to tell you, I'm not contradicting anything that I have taught in the past. What I'm doing right now is an exception, not a rule. Normally, I start my tomatoes indoors and I let them get to be about this big before I transplant them. And that's what I'm gonna do with the rest of my tomatoes that are in my greenhouse right now. I have lots of starts out there. Those are gonna be planted out in 2 weeks after all threat of frost has passed. However, I'm doing a little test because I started a bunch of these Oregon varieties, which are Determinant varieties I was intending to grow in my high tunnel. I have way more than what I need, and so I'm taking some of these. This is the Santiam variety. These are all tomato varieties that are meant to be planted when the soil is still cool. I'm planting them in the high tunnel. On my 10-day forecast, I have no forecasted nights that are below freezing. So I'm planting these 2 weeks early, and they're also small. I don't usually take seedlings like this and put them straight into the garden. The other thing that's unusual here is that these really haven't been hardened off. Now they've been on the top shelf of my glass greenhouse, but I'm putting them into the high tunnel. I would never put these directly into my garden. So I feel like I've really weighed out the risks here, but I'm still taking a risk. These plants might fail, and I'm okay with that because I have so many. So I'm just separating these little seedlings out, trying to keep some roots intact under each one. Now normally when I'm planting much larger plants, I would plant them super, super deep, and I would put some amendments underneath them like an egg. And I have a video talking about the best way to plant tomatoes, which I'll link down below. And that is, I believe, the best way to do it. But I'm just doing this a little differently as an experiment. The rest of my tomatoes I'll do my normal way. So my idea here is that if this goes well, I will have tomatoes significantly sooner. If it doesn't, the seedlings die. Which I don't want that to happen. But I do have extras, so kind of a risk I'm willing to take. I'm curious because normally I do plant my plants so deep, and I do usually put an egg underneath them. And I do think that that makes a difference and that they do really well. And so I'm curious to see if these will be as strong planted early as seedlings. There's no rule that says you can't plant seedlings out early. You can plant them when they're really small, especially if you've hardened them off. If you're planting them out into like a regular outdoor garden situation, you would definitely want to do that. But seedlings don't have to be a certain size in order to do well. You could even direct sow tomatoes into your garden space if you had enough days in your frost-free season for them to come to maturity in time. Like if you figure out your last frost date, like mine this year is like April 14th, and you figure out your estimated first frost date, which mine is usually like the end of October. My growing season is typically around 200 days. So technically, I could just start seeds directly in my garden. The reason I like to go ahead and start them indoors is because the sooner that something comes to maturity, the sooner you get to eat from it. the sooner something comes to maturity, the longer you get to eat from it. And also, if you live in a place that's really hot, like July and August, if you direct sow those things, like tomatoes, they don't set their fruit very well when it's hot outside, when it's over like 90 degrees, 32 Celsius. So getting them to fruiting stage where they're setting blossoms in May to June means that I'm gonna get more harvest off my plants. But if you have enough time, and especially if you live in a place where you have enough time and your summers aren't like scalding hot, you can totally direct sow things like tomatoes. The main thing when you're figuring out what you're gonna grow in your garden when is figuring out what are the ideal conditions for that plant to thrive, and then figuring out what time of year where you live those conditions are readily available. So like if you live in a frost-free zone where it doesn't freeze at all in the winter, but you have like super hot summers, it might be better for you to grow these kinds of things over the winter. You just have to figure out what the plant needs and how you can grow that plant during the time window that you can best provide those needs. Because these are determinants, I did not plant them as closely together as I would with indeterminates, because whereas I prune my indeterminates down to a single stem, I won't do that on determinates. With indeterminates, you can prune them down because they can just grow taller and you'll get more fruit. But with determinates, if you prune them down to a single stem, you know, you're cutting off more of your fruit. They're only going to grow so much anyway. So I think that will be good on these. I might still be a little close together, but I think it'll be okay. I didn't really measure it either. I eyeballed it, so it's probably close to 24 inches in some places. And I feel pretty good about it. Now, I do have backup seedlings for these in case these just like utterly fail. I think they'll be okay though. I think the fact that they're going from greenhouse to here, it's not going to be too harsh on them. I have a way of protecting them if we do get a freeze. I will probably have to fertilize them, but we did just heavily amend these beds, so I know there's a lot of nutrition for them. And now I just keep an eye on them and hope that they pop back up here in the next day or two and hope for the best. I also want to amend my statement, my do as I say and not as I do statement. If you want to have success, you want things to go well, you can do as I say. But if you'd like to have permission to experiment, you can watch what I do in situations like this, because I know I'm taking a risk by doing things differently than what I know works. But I have a goal in mind, and so I'll weigh it out and decide the risk is worth it. Now, would I plant all of my tomato seedlings before the frost date? When they were small and not as strong, even in the high tunnel? Absolutely not. But for extras, it's totally worth it. Hey boy. Hey, you riding your Jeep?
Yeah.
Nice.
A big boy car.
A big boy car. You are a big boy. See you, dudes.
See ya.
All right, kombucha break. I wanted to share something with you guys. I brought it up here and set it on the kitchen table so I wouldn't forget. First, thank you to those of you who sent me Brad's Atomic Grape tomato seeds. I mentioned the other day that that's Malia's favorite, and that I realized upon starting seeds that I did not have any. So thank you for helping me make sure that I have that in the garden for her. I've actually got those, as well as some other tomato seeds that a friend sent. These Midnight Romas from Row 7 Seeds. And I'm gonna start those, so I gotta go down to the greenhouse and start those few tomato seeds, as well as throw these Badger Flame beets into the garden. I wanted to just tell you about a really cool garden tool. And I've talked about these before. I have partnered with Clyde in the past over the last couple of years. And now I have partnered to him, and we are actually carrying these on our online shop at rootsandrefuge.com, as well as our stickers of the month. This is our first non-sticker product that we've branched off into, and I just want to tell you about it because this is such a cool little tool. It's really affordable, and it really does help if you're feeling confusion about when you should sow things in your garden. So Clyde's garden planner comes with instructions that explains it, but I'm just gonna kind of wing it and share with you here. And there's one side that is for like spring and summer, and then there's another side that is for fall planting. So on one side there's a line that says the average last spring frost, and on the other side it says average first fall frost. So we're gonna go to the spring side because that's where we are right now. And all you do is go online and do a quick internet search for the estimated last frost date for your area. Use your zip code. If you live in the middle of nowhere like me, use the closest city, and you will get a date that pops up. It changes, give or take, a week or two every year. And this year, my average last frost is, it's April 14th is what they have listed. And here, he has each week, like April 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th. So I just put it on the 12th. And you just line the chart up by putting that red line on the date in question. And what that does is then you can reference this side and you can see onion sets, peas, spinach, cabbage, cauliflower, radish, turnips, beets, potatoes, broccoli, lettuce, carrots, chard, green beans, sweet corn, cucumber, squash, melons, peppers, tomatoes, okra, pumpkin. So you got a long list of most all the things that you would want to grow in your garden. And basically what this does is lines up and it gives you so much information. It tells you the first outdoor planting dates. So, and it lines it right up. So I know that, like, for instance, for beets, that I could start planting my beets outdoors around March 22nd. Radishes around March 15th. Squash, it says, make sure you plant after the frost. So my first planting dates are gonna be May 3rd. Now this is a chart, it's guidelines. This is not hard and fast rules. You're welcome to, you know, wiggle a little bit, but this is a really good thing, especially for a new gardener that might not be familiar with what things are frost hardy and what things are frost tender. But also this goes on to tell you about when you should start harvesting if you plant on those dates and how long you'll start harvesting. Like it shows that chard, you'll be able to harvest beyond the fall frost until fall frost, all of those things. It also states the minimum daily sunshine required. So if you are growing on like a really shady spot, you could see here that like spinach and lettuce are a little more tolerant of that. And I just think it's totally a great resource. There's lots of information on here. These particular charts, which you can purchase on our website, are Roots and Refuge branded. So you see up here on the top that they say rootsandrefuge.com. And they have on the back that very true quote, store-bought vegetables, taste like disappointment. Don't be disappointed, grow your own. So if you want one of these, we have a limited number in our shop. I'm pretty sure when these are gone, the branded ones, this year they will be gone. I don't think we're gonna order any more branded ones, maybe until next spring. So if you want one of the limited Roots and Refuge editions, make sure you go check it out. The link's below, but it's always rootsandrefuge.com under the shop tab. All right, let's go plant some seeds. Back in the greenhouse. Oh good, Maya moved my peppers out here for me. I gotta separate these all out. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I want to give you guys a little tip. If you'll notice right here, this little seedling got stuck in its seed cap. This happens sometimes. Sometimes they'll be on top of the seedling, like this, where it's completely holding the leaves from growing out. Sometimes they're just pinning the top. It's really prevalent in peppers and tomatoes, and it has to do with your humidity not being right. And like these were in my laundry room where we run a dehumidifier because we keep food down there like potatoes and stuff. So it's not great for seed starting, but it's okay. But I have to be mindful of stuff like this. But the tip is that if you see those little seed caps that are dried up and they're keeping the seedling from growing properly, kind of gross, but spit on your fingers and put it on that seed cap. Here's actually another one that's doing it too, right there. Obviously, you could just wet them down, but by using saliva, there's an enzyme in the saliva that breaks them down quicker, especially if they're really, really stuck and you don't want to risk pulling the leaves off of the plant. If you just apply that saliva to it a couple of times, like over the course of coming in and checking on them a couple of times in a day, they'll end up being able to break through them a lot easier. You'll be able to pull them off a lot easier without damaging the plant. I actually learned that trick from Brad Gates, Wild Boar Farms, and he starts a lot of tomato seedlings, so I consider him to be like a prime source of information. If anybody else told me to spit on my tomatoes, I'd probably be like, but Brad Gates does it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I'm just gonna start these couple of varieties of tomatoes.
I'm here to be in a video.
You're here to be in a video?
Planting video.
A planting video. Well, put your things down right there.
My kombucha right beside yours. Wash it right beside my kombucha.
Well, come on over. See these? Midnight Roma tomatoes. All right.
What is this?
That's called Super Thrive. It's like a little vitamin supplement. All right. We're going to plant a handful of these.
In my hand?
Yeah, just Press them there onto the soil, all of them. We'll plant them thick and we'll thin them out later.
Pressed it.
Pressed it. Well done. Well done, young sir. Okay, we can just cover them up. Some more soil. I have a video showing how I plant tomato seeds like this. I'll put a link to it down below. If you haven't seen it yet, I just put it up a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I sow them really thick and then separate them later. Hold on, let me write the tag.
What is it? How do you write it?
Midnight Roma. Would you like to write it?
Yeah.
Can you write all that on there?
I'm gonna take a sip of it.
Okay. You're gonna have to write small, okay?
Okay.
You could just write these 2 words, Midnight Roma. You can leave tomato off because I know that. Very well done.
Okay.
Midnight Roma. We'll just put it in the other way. Do you want to do the other one? Would you like to write the other tag?
Where's my midnight room?
I put it in the seeds. Very well done.
I thought it was put in the other way.
Yeah, but if we sunk that in too deep, it would hide the words. So this time, if you want to write the words kind of towards the other end, we could put it in the other way.
Looks like a lighthouse.
Yeah, it kind of does. That's cool, huh?
So.
Okay, so I want you to write down the words atomic grape.
Atomic grape?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it like they did. Like this.
Oh, you doing it like they did? Do you know what those little lines on the tops and bottoms of the letters are called? Those are called serifs, and it's part of the font. Oh, that's fancy. You be careful, don't mark on your shirt with that permanent marker, please. All right, you gonna do it like they did? Or you just want to write it regular?
T's gonna be like T.
You want to see something funny while you write that? I saw this the other day while I was out here. I saw this on this little box, okay? Do you see that? How you wrote that backwards? You know, a lot of times when kids are learning to write, they write things exactly backwards, like perfect mirror image. And you wrote your name, the exact mirror image of your name, when you were about 3 years old, helping me in the greenhouse just like this. In fact, I think this is written on the shelves of the old greenhouse a couple of times because you were 3, so you wanted to write your name everywhere. Isn't that funny? Finish writing atomic grape. Very good. So he decided he wanted to write the serifs on this one. So there's atomic grape.
Okay, I'm done.
Very nice. We'll put it here. Thank you, sir, for your help. Making space, darlings. Sometimes looks like that. Let's go plant these beets. Oh, baby dog. My bear. So I'm pretty excited about these Badger Flame beets. My friend Diane sent these to me. They are from Row 7 Seeds. And the package says, and you guys know that I am a poet at heart, and therefore I am so incredibly wooed by things like this. All the vegetal sweetness of a beet without the polarizing earthiness. The brilliant Badger Flame is here to redeem the beet's dirty reputation. So, interesting fun fact. Some people don't like beets because they say they taste like dirt. People who do love beets claim that that's not true. In actuality, beets contain a chemical compound called Geosmin. Geosmin is the same chemical compound that is in the soil that is released after a rain. So if you're familiar with the smell after a rain, you know that smell of earth? That's Geosmin being released out into the air from the rain, hitting the soil. And different beets have different Geosmin levels. So if you don't like earthy beets, you would want a beet with a lower Geosmin level, which would be what's happening here with the Badger Flame. If you do like that earthiness, you would look for a beet with a higher Geosmin level. And I want to say Kioja is one that is higher. It's like a little bit earthier. And I think the yellow ones are typically more sweet and less earthy, so I'm not surprised that this one is yellow. That might not always be the rule though. I like beets pretty good. I will tell you that they are not all created equal. I have found that I much prefer homegrown beets to store-bought beets. And though I do like pickled beets, I actually enjoy them. I think that they're good. I understand a lot of people don't. But if you have had a bad beet experience and you don't like that earthy taste, they're very, very good roasted. It's a very different experience to have them roasted. It changes the flavors a lot, and it actually caramelizes the sugars that are in them. So you're not going to have quite the same flavor as you would how you've normally eaten them if you've eaten them raw or if you've eaten them pickled. It's like a nice good roast in a hot oven, 375 or 400 degrees, till they get good and like brown on the edges and they're nice and soft and all the sugars are caramelized. And then splash them with some like balsamic or some sort of acid, you know, like something that's acidic, maybe some lemon juice, and that'll brighten them up a lot. And if you want the nutritional benefit of eating beets, but you don't actually want to taste them, you can also dehydrate them and make a powder that you can just mix into your smoothies. So that's also an option and a good way to use them. And you can also harvest the greens and cook the greens. And with any root vegetables like turnips or beets, like if you're wanting to harvest some of the greens, but you're also still wanting to get roots as well, just don't harvest more than half of the greens at a time, because you want that plant to still be able to convert energy and store it in its root. Just taking like the outer greens and leaving the inner ones, and they will grow more, but that way you don't get super slow growing roots while you're chowing down on beet greens, unless all you want is beet greens, in which case go right ahead. All right, there they are. So I actually don't have a hose down here, so I grabbed my watering can. I'm just gonna water these in. The soil here is actually pretty moist under the top layer because I don't have this mulch yet. The topmost layer kind of dries out a little quick, and that's obviously where I just put these seeds. Just give them a little bit of water. Well, there we have it, friends. A day of sowing, both reckless and responsible. There's just something so gratifying about coming to the end of a day where I know I have put the gears in motion that in a few months from now are going to pay off in many pounds of food for my table and for my pantry and for my family. I know that there are many rewarding and gratifying things in the world, but I don't think there's any way to talk me out of the firm belief that growing a garden is at the very height of that list. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I bless you. Until next time.